Someone used my photos to date the school grass online, and cheated him out of a lot of money. The school grass stood in front of me, and prayed in a humble voice, "Sister, I still have money, can you lie to me for a few more days?" I looked at the beautiful face of the school grass, and fell into deep thought. So, this person is stupid, and has a lot of money, is it hers or mine? On the first day of school, I was walking towards the dormitory with my head down, and a figure blocked my way, and his voice was low and aggrieved, "Sister, I miss you so much." I raised my eyes, and the boy in front of me was wearing a simple white tee and black cargo pants, his broken hair covering his forehead, and his eyes were faintly red. "You've misidentified someone." After I finished speaking, I was about to leave by bypassing him, but I didn't think about it, and he grabbed my wrist tightly. "Sister, don't break up with me, I can have plastic surgery." I took a closer look at his face, white and delicate skin, tall nose bridge, and peach blossom eyes with affection. What kind of fairy appearance does you have to be worthy of dislicking this ugly face? Seeing that I didn't speak, the boy became anxious again, his eyes became red, and he begged in a humble tone, "Sister, I don't mind if you lie to me, I still have money, can you lie to me for a few more days?" TSK, handsome and rich, the key person is stupid. It's just a pity that I really don't know. Seeing that there were more, and more footsteps around me, I relentlessly and broke his fingers one by one. "Classmate, you really recognized the wrong person." Inevitably the sound of whispering came to the ears. "This woman's rank is really high. It's really good, he got the school grass done on the first day of school, and he was willing to be cheated out of money. Let's start a class, I'd like to hear it." This woman seems to be a freshman, from the outer court. Seeing that the more everyone talks, the more outrageous it becomes, the boy looks like a deep sea and infatuated. I was quick to see him, and pulled him into the school cafeteria. It turned out that the boy's name was Aubrey Reed, and he recognized me as his online dating partner. To be precise, someone used my photos to date him online for 3 months. Moreover, his online dating partner is still the daughter of a rich family, boasting that he usually falls in love with internet celebrities. For the sake of Aubrey Reed's sincerity, he was barely with someone of his level. I looked at Aubrey Reed's star-friendly face in front of me, and I was speechless for a moment. Isn't this properly PUA by elementary school students? As for the photo, I can probably guess which one it is. When I was in high school, I went to the school sports day, and I was too hot, so I secretly ran to the shade of a tree to read a novel while enjoying the shade. There was just a ray of sunlight, sliding down the gap in the leaves and falling on my face, and I looked up. I don't know who took this scene, but in the photo, I was holding a book and looking up at the sunshine, pure and beautiful. That photo became popular on the internet for a while, and was hailed as the first love of the nation. With that photo, I was labeled as pure, quiet, and well-behaved, who didn't eat fireworks in the world, and loved learning. In fact, I'm a big fan of BL novels, and I don't scold people for being scared of picking, and I love money, which can be called a love of money. At that time, many internet celebrity companies found me, but they were all blocked by my fierce mother by herself. It seems that Aubrey Reed was also deceived by the illusion of that photo. I turned out my King's page to prove my innocence. Then he explained the ins and outs of the matter in detail, and looked at Aubrey Reed with a sad face. "So classmate, I'm really not your online dating partner." "Got it." Aubrey Reed bowed her head, looking devastated. But there was nothing I could do, so I said goodbye and fled back to the dormitory. After tidying up, I collapsed in bed and looked around for part-time job information. The thing I look forward to the most after being admitted to university is that I can work part-time, openly, and make my own money. A few years ago in an accident, my dad was paralyzed in both legs, and we sold the house and spent all our savings, but to no avail. After that, my mom started working 2 jobs on her own, barely paying my dad's medical bills and my school fees. I used to secretly go to work part-time, but my mother soon found out. Our new house was a self-built house tucked away from the city, tucked away on a rugged road in the suburbs, and it was empty after 10 p.m. After my part-time job, I walked in the dark alleys by the moonlight, surrounded by low bungalows hidden in the darkness, like dormant beasts. The wind of a midsummer night blows coolly, and the branches and leaves of the willow trees around them dance and flutter in the wind. I just felt that my hair stood on end, and I couldn't help but tighten the strap of my school bag and speed up my pace. Finally, I saw a beam of light not far away. My mom was standing on the muddy and rugged path with a small flashlight, her red and swollen eyes full of apprehension, and she was looking around nervously. For some reason, I still remember that image. I always felt that the faint light of the flashlight was brighter than the sunlight that spilled down the gaps in the leaves. When I went back that day, my mom hit me for the first time, and she slapped me on the back, and rained down her weak fists on my shoulder. Before I could react, my mom sobbed before me, and it quickly turned into a broken cry. You are 1 or 2, and you really can't afford to support you as an old lady. I'll tell you today, as long as my wife still has a breath, I can afford to raise this family. I later found out that on that day, my dad committed suicide. He didn't want to be a burden to us, so he secretly bought pesticides, and was about to end his life, but fortunately my mother found out in time. After that, I never went to work part-time, and as my mother expected, I finished high school like an ordinary child, without worrying about food and clothing. I was also competitive, and my grades soared from the midstream level to the top universities in the city. I had no choice but to turn over for a long time, but I didn't see any reliable part-time jobs. I had to send messages to some of the new community groups to ask. Soon someone asked to add me as a friend through a group chat. I looked at the words, Aubrey Reed, and frowned and clicked through. Sister, I have a job here. Are you interested? Tell me. Let's play. It's an honor to see your historical rank as a king today. What's playing? It's you who spend time playing games with me, and I'll pay you. I was stunned, and this good thing. But when you think about it, how much money can you make from such an easy job? As if knowing what was in my mind, Aubrey Reed sent a few more words. 5,000 a month. I was silent and suspected that he was a liar. 10,000, 20,000. Now, I'm sure he's a liar. No, I found it. I looked at the little ad that my roommate pointed out to me, and replied quickly. I followed my mother. My bones were hard, and I felt that money could not buy dignity. However, the next day, I looked at the $85 transfer I had received after standing stupidly in the scorching sun all day, and clicked on Aubrey Reed's dialog box. Yesterday's play, you can tell me more about it. With the last conscience, I sold the deal for 10,000 a month. Aubrey Reed just asked me to play games with him, every night. After the deal was finalized, Aubrey Reed sent a transfer of 10,000 yuan. I hesitated for a moment. How could I feel so much like a scammer? Forget it, it's a big deal to take him to the score. After comforting myself, I accepted the transfer with peace of mind. Sister, do you have time to play now? Okay, number 1. I opened Honor of Kings and looked at Aubrey Reed's personal page. The V10 mark is shining on his kitten head, and there are not many sessions, and he is currently ranked platinum. Fortunately, I didn't play for several seasons, and I fell to a diamond, just a double row. I looked at the single-digit skin on my profile, and the V1 logo on my profile picture, and silently clicked on the hidden logo, before inviting him into the room. When Aubrey Reed came in, he turned on the voice and called me obediently. Sister. I didn't turn on the voice, I just pressed start. Didn't respond. Aubrey Reed was not annoyed, still asked softly, does my sister want to play assist? I'll grab it for you. I indifferently picked a jungler and clicked to ask for help. Aubrey Reed was quiet for 2 seconds, helped me pick a jungler, and then picked a support for myself. I frowned and turned on the voice alert. Why don't you play a tank? Our lineup is too brittle. But tank is so fat, I like cute. Aubrey Reed whispered, pressing confirm. I pouted and complained. What's wrong with the fat? How cute the meat is. Aubrey Reed's restrained laughter was faintly heard. Okay, sister, I'll help you fight blue. Then, Aubrey Reed followed me inseparably throughout the game, regardless of shooters and junglers, and occasionally left on a flat A blue buff. At the end of the game, the phrase one heard the most was, Sister, Nolan. Then the shooter was not happy, so he picked the picker and went offline, and before leaving, he also sent a sentence, you two little lovers might as well open a room to play by yourself. The shooter hangs up, and the game fails. In the next game, I learned from the pain and locked on to Luna. Luna is the hero I've played the most times, and won't play it unless necessary. I had an infinite connection under the moon in one hand, and I almost knocked out the sparks on my phone, and I barely won a few games. Aubrey Reed hung right on me, blowing rainbow farts. Sister, this combo is so handsome. Sister, good details, actually deceive the other party with so many skills. Rao is cheeky like me, and he was a little embarrassed, so he took the initiative to say, why don't you jungle in the next game? Boys should want to jungle themselves, and fly the whole picture. Okay, let me see which hero is handsome. Aubrey Reed agreed, carefully chosen, and finally chosen. I looked at the lineup and picked a tank. Aubrey Reed was silent for 2 seconds. Sister remembered to protect me. However, I couldn't do anything, and he was almost flashing over the whole game to give people heads, which can be said to be a perfect catch for every skill of the opponent. I'm in a hurry, changed a set of output equipment, ran after the opposite side, and frantically harvested the residual blood. Aubrey Reed silently watched me run after someone like a gorilla, and said, Sister, you're really fierce. I was annoyed by this fight, and I didn't restrain myself for a while, and said quickly, it's not that you can't do it. I regretted saying that. This is my gold master, not an unlucky teammate. Aubrey Reed wasn't angry, but lowered his voice a little, and said word by word, Sister, don't you know that you can't say that men can't do it? Maybe it's because Aubrey Reed keeps calling me sister, or maybe it's because Aubrey Reed has always behaved obediently, and I've always positioned him as a younger brother. This is probably the first time I have heard him speak seriously, and he actually exudes a hormone that belongs to a mature man. My cheeks were inexplicably hot, and I changed the subject and asked, You're also a freshman, which college? No, I'm a sophomore, majoring in computer science. Then you still call me sister. I skipped a grade, so I'm supposed to be 3 years younger than my sister. Unexpectedly, this stupid younger brother is still a scholar. Sister, I'll help in the future. I like to play cute. It's okay if he's self-aware. In this way, I started my career as a playmaker in a daze. I have all kinds of jungler shooters to fly all over the field, and Aubrey Reed plays Yao Yao and hangs on me, responsible for lying down to win. I still got a part-time job at a bubble tea shop. I do odd jobs during the day, and take Aubrey Reed to score at night. After all, the more money, the better. Gradually, Aubrey Reed figured out my working hours, and would always show up on my way to work, intentionally or unintentionally, and take me back to the dorm every day. I'm a little unaccustomed to it, but no matter what I say, Aubrey Reed will still show up the next day. It just so happened that the eldest aunt came that day, and she was irritable for no reason, so she lost her temper at Aubrey Reed on the street. Faced with me who was inexplicably angry, Aubrey Reed was not angry. Her thin lips were pursed, and she apologized in a low voice, I'm sorry sister, if you don't like it, I won't come in the future. After that, Aubrey Reed really didn't appear again. I knew I had gone too far, and I couldn't apologize with face. There was a cold war between the two of us for 2 days. It wasn't until the 3rd day that it rained heavily before evening. The girl who came to pick up my class sent me a WeChat message, it's raining too much. I don't want to go today. Help me take a shift. Thank you baby. I immediately refused. But after sending this sentence, the girl ignored me, and the phone couldn't get through. I didn't even have an umbrella with me, and as the rain became more and more intense, I flipped through my phone with my phone, not knowing who to turn to. In the end, I didn't look for anyone, and I stayed up until the end of the night shift. So I casually found a coat and put it on my head and rushed out. The raindrops the size of beans fell wildly, and were blown up by the strong wind and hit their faces, and the rain accumulated on the ground was no longer up to their ankles. I was in a hurry to run back. I didn't pay attention to the stairs under my feet. The soles of my feet slipped, and I fell directly to the ground, soaking wet. There was no one in the rain, and I sat on the ground as I looked at my muddy coat that had fallen into a puddle. There was still a dull pain in the lower abdomen. The ankle seemed to be sprained. A dense tingling sensation hit, and the soaked clothes were blown by the wind, bringing a chill to the bone. The vision was gradually blurred by the rain. I wiped my face and struggled to get up. In the next second, the warm and dry embrace embraced me. I'm sorry to stand a little far away, and didn't see you coming out. Aubrey Reed held the umbrella, picked me up with one hand, and walked under the eaves. I hooked his neck tightly, felt his strong arms, and greedily sniffed the smell of dry sunlight on his body. I hid in Aubrey Reed's oversized coat, and we waited quietly for the rain to light down. It was Aubrey Reed, who carried me all the way back that day. On rainy nights, the streets are empty, with only street lamps standing. I put on Aubrey Reed's coat and lay relaxed on his shoulder, a transparent umbrella to keep us out of the pouring rain. In my mind, there seems to be another indelible picture. My feelings for Aubrey Reed became more and more inexplicable. I no longer keep him from coming. I can't help but want to be closer to him. 2 months later, Aubrey Reed managed to reach the 21st star of the King rank. I guess it's time to retire after success. After all, you can't keep cheating other people's money. Although I still want to play games with him, I still sent a message saying that I won't be playing with him in the future. But Aubrey Reed never replied. It wasn't until I woke up early in the morning that I saw the message that Aubrey Reed had returned at 5 o'clock in the middle of the night. Sister, I took my friends to fight a few times, and I accidentally fell to Xingyao V again, and I still need you to bring me back. Losing to Xingyao 5 overnight, I'm afraid it was a deliberate drop of points. I suspiciously pointed out his record. It was all red, and it was all double road. He played games with a girl who played Yao until 5 o'clock in the middle of the night. I clicked on the girl's homepage and found that she and Aubrey Reed were both V10 full of skin, and the avatar was the photo I took on the internet for a while. So, is Aubrey Reed renewing his online relationship? My heart suddenly felt a little sour. But also, when we first met, Aubrey Reed had red eyes because of her. I guess I really like it. On the contrary, I didn't know when I had a crooked mind about him. I shook my head. This kind of thing is better to cut through the mess quickly. Before leaving, I decided to give him a free rank back. It's just that I'll never talk to him anymore. Some time ago, we had a good conversation, and every day we talked without a word, and sometimes we even fell asleep. Now, it's just Aubrey Reed stubbornly talking to himself. I completely drew a line and decided to be an emotionless wild king sister. Unexpectedly, Aubrey Reed, who had nothing to do, came directly to the door. I was working in a bubble tea shop that day. In the afternoon, I was alone in the store, sitting at the counter with my head propped up and drowsy. Footsteps were faintly heard, but no one spoke. I was too sleepy to open my eyes. I just thought it was an auditory hallucination. Suddenly, I felt a vague snort spray on the bridge of my nose, followed by a soft touch on my lips. I snapped my eyes open, and it was Aubrey Reed. He propped his hands on the counter, bent closer, his eyes closed, as if he was too nervous, his long eyelashes fluttering slightly. He actually kissed me secretly. I raised my eyebrows, went straight to his hands, and grabbed his white and tender face. Aubrey Reed was startled. Her peach blossom eyes were round, as if she was frightened, and she still kept her kissing posture and didn't know how to move. It's all to blame for this face being too handsome. This has to be changed to someone else, and I can give him a set of combination punches. Aubrey Reed finally reacted, and jerked back, forgetting that I was still tugging at his face, and gasped in pain. I didn't care if he was in pain or not, so I grabbed his face and stood up. What do you mean, plotting against me while I'm asleep? I didn't expect you to be like this, Aubrey Reed. Aubrey Reed's face flushed, and he stumbled to explain. Yes, I'm sorry sister. It's not a bad intention. It's a... What is it? Isn't this a conspiracy? You want both the internet romance and the photo myself. This abacus allows you to play, and my mother can hear it in her hometown. Aubrey Reed was so anxious that he couldn't speak for a long time, and he had to get started. At this time, a few girls happened to come in to buy milk tea, and they were a little embarrassed when they saw this scene. It's not going in for a while. It's not going to be in there. I quickly let go of Aubrey Reed's face, and motioned for him to step aside, smiling professionally. Classmate, what do you want to drink? After they finished buying the milk tea and left, I completely came to my senses, although my face didn't change. In fact, during the few seconds of kissing, I could only hear my own violent heartbeat. Calm down now. No matter how handsome Aubrey Reed is, he's just a scumbag eating in a bowl and thinking about the pot. I changed my face very quickly, and gave him an eviction order with a cold face. You go. Next time you do this, I will call the police. Aubrey Reed stopped talking, and finally left silently. I looked at his lonely back, and I was still a little distressed. In fact, this isn't the first time he's kissed me secretly. A few years ago, My family was destitute and I went to work part-time as a tutor. When I came to the villa area in the east of the city, the door was hidden, and I pushed the door in with some trepidation, and the gorgeous decoration in the house almost made me stun for a moment. Every piece of furniture and every ornament in the house smells of money. It's a world of difference from my family's dilapidated and remote self-built house. After looking for a long time, I found that in the huge living room, the figure of a little fat man was huddled tightly in the corner of the sofa. I leaned over and bent over to look at him. "Are you Aubrey Reed?" The boy's face was fleshy and tender, and his big eyes were dark, and he looked up at me quickly, and ran to the second-floor bedroom, and locked the door. I was left alone in the living room, helpless. At this time, the door was pushed open, and a middle-aged woman wearing high heels and professional clothes walked in. The woman had crisp short black hair, lifted her chin lightly, looked at me from top to bottom with sharp eyes, and her tone was a little displeased. "Agnes, is this your new tutor? So many teachers don't want it, so you just ask a child to fool me." Behind her walked a middle-aged woman bent over and her hands stuffed with large bags of fresh vegetables. The teachers were a bit older, and Aubrey Reed was a little bit repulsive about them, so I thought I'd try to find a student of that same age. I inquired, "This child is doing well in school, and her grades have improved very quickly in the past year. Maybe she can teach Aubrey Reed well." The woman pursed her lips and glanced at her and asked, "What about Aubrey Reed?" I was a little nervous by her, and pointed upstairs. "Go up." The woman glared at me fiercely, and walked upstairs in her high heels. "A virtue with his father is a waste." From time to time, there was a woman's sharp reprimand from upstairs, and before long, the little boy walked down crying with tears in his eyes. Fortunately, Aubrey Reed's mom is rarely at home. Occasionally, at home, he was mercilessly insulting to Aubrey Reed, without any regard for me as an outsider. I probably learned that Aubrey Reed's dad cheated on him, and his mom took him to work his own, and apparently achieved a lot of success. And Aubrey Reed's father is now married to the daughter of a large company, and the two have a child, who is about the same age as Aubrey Reed, but skips grades one after another, and is touted as a little prodigy. Aubrey Reed, on the other hand, is usually reticent and basically refuses to communicate with people. The only thing he's interested in is playing games. Aubrey Reed's mother vented almost all her resentment, jealousy, and resentment on little Aubrey Reed, as if all the misfortunes in her life were caused by Aubrey Reed. And Aubrey Reed never argued in the face of her endless insults, staring at nothingness in silence and numbness each time. When I gave Aubrey Reed a makeup lesson, Aubrey Reed was always staring at the book on the table, but he didn't know where to go. In desperation, I decided to start with what interests him the most. I took my phone and shook it in front of his big eyes that were out of focus. "Do you like to fight kings?" He was like a kitten, his dark eyes drifting with the phone shaking in my hand, and he whispered, "I like it." I played a few games with him, and took the opportunity to set up a rule. A paper can score more than 80 points, and I will accompany him to play a game for an hour. A few days ago, Aubrey Reed struggled a little, but soon his speed and accuracy of the questions were greatly improved. After more than half a month, he can finish a paper in less than half an hour, with an average score of more than 95 points. During this period, he talked to me more and more, and every time he finished writing the paper, his eyes lit up and he called me softly, "Sister." Perhaps because of his lack of contact with the outside world, Aubrey Reed's mind is slower than that of his peers, simple and pure. One day, I walked into the villa and saw only shards of my phone and glass on the ground, and Aubrey Reed was standing in the corner sobbing and shivering. When Aubrey Reed saw me come in, he ran over and rushed into my arms, crying and choking, saying, "Sister, I'm not a waste. I'm not a waste, am I?" I had to gently pat him on the back and comfort, "Aubrey Reed is not a waste. You are the most powerful little boy I have ever seen, and my sister believes that Aubrey Reed will be better than everyone else in the future." Aubrey Reed cried to sleep in my arms, and I was moved to see the tears still hanging from his fluttering eyelashes. I seemed to understand why my mother works day and night, working hard to maintain the family. I seemed to be luckier to live in a small dilapidated house than Aubrey Reed, who lives in a villa complex. After that, I started to slowly guide Aubrey Reed, teaching him about coding and game development, and Aubrey Reed became more and more dependent on me, and in just 1 month, he began to wait for me at the door of the villa every day, following me inseparably, and calling me a sister after a mouthful. Aubrey Reed is very talented at playing games, and every time I complete a mission, I will play with him as agreed, but I haven't been playing for long, so I can only be a bastard, boring to clear the line. This month, I have been making up classes for 3 hours a day, and when I go back, I have to rush to complete my homework, and I am seriously sleep deprived. I just played, and fell asleep. A vague breath sprayed on my face, and I opened my eyes in a daze, and I saw the little boy slowly approaching with his eyes closed. I reached out and pinched his fleshy face. "What do you want to do?" The little boy was stunned, and whispered with a red face, "The neighbor's brother said that you can get married if you kiss me, and I want to marry my sister. Get out of here." With a scolding, Aubrey Reed's mother came over with an angry look on her face, and slammed her bag in my face. "You learned to seduce people at a young age," I said. "Why Aubrey Reed suddenly listened to you? It turns out that vixens have no age group with the conditions of your family. Do you dare to want a sparrow to become a phoenix? Get out of here." I don't know how I walked home, except for Aubrey Reed's mother's foul language and humiliation. Aubrey Reed yelled at what he said, and the two of them quarreled again. And that day happened to be the day my father tried to commit suicide by drinking pesticides. A brief encounter with Aubrey Reed also ended in a quarrel and insults. That experience was selectively forgotten by me. I've been speculating before. When he said his name was Aubrey Reed, when he called me sister softly, but the remembered Aubrey Reed is a chubby little boy who is not tall, a little boy who does not dare to talk to people, and a little boy who never seems to grow up. Time has made Aubrey Reed taller, his facial features sharper, and his personality more extroverted, but his apprehensive and pious appearance with his eyes closed has not changed in the slightest. The worlds of difference between each other's family backgrounds have not changed. I hesitated and transferred the money back to him. Press delete. The time in the evening suddenly became free, and I was still a little unaccustomed to it. In order not to let myself be confused, I also took over the position of being on duty at the bubble tea shop at night. But even then, my income has been greatly reduced. But within a few days, the bubble tea shop had a new owner. I don't know who bought the bubble tea shop, although it has never appeared, but the salary has doubled. Suffice it to say, a good man has a safe life. When I was helping with the handover at the bubble tea shop, the ex-boss suddenly asked me, "Tina Kipling, is the latest surveillance video still there?" I paused. Did you lose something in the store?" She handed over a USB flash drive. "It's okay, you can copy it for me." I reluctantly took it, and it didn't feel good. I don't usually fish a lot, and I kissed Aubrey Reed that day. "You won't be fired as soon as your salary rises." I sat down in the bubble tea shop worriedly, and continued to fish. Tina Kipling, working here. Huberty Pater looked at me, and smiled at me in a fashion brand, wearing limited edition basketball shoes, and dyeing his hair white. Huberty Pater was my classmate, and although his grades were average, he was directly elected class president on the first day of school. Usually, when the class goes out for dinner, it seems that he pays out of his own pocket, and he usually spends his money generously, and the character of the rich second generation is quickly erected. But I don't usually go to class gatherings and other activities. After all, I am busy with part-time work every day, so I have a general relationship with most of my classmates. Huberty Pater ordered 2 cups of milk tea, handed me one, and leaned against the counter to start a conversation with me. Basically the whole time he was showing off his wealth, and I was listening. Fortunately, Huberty Pater suddenly came to the phone, and accidentally pressed the speakerphone, and the girl's coquettish voice on the other end of the phone came clearly. Huberty Pater covered the phone with some embarrassment and hurriedly said goodbye. I sighed. It was boring. After deleting my friend, Aubrey Reed was very amenable and didn't bother me. The next time I saw him, it was already a month later. The school holds a commendation meeting, and makes it mandatory for all students to participate. I was sitting bored playing on my phone. The next person to speak on behalf of the outstanding students was Aubrey Reed. a sophomore from Class A of the computer science major. Aubrey Reed led his classmates to start their own business during their time at the university, and now they have launched a self-developed game app that has been officially launched, and the initial success is welcome. I couldn't help but breathe and looked up at the stage. Aubrey Reed wore a black suit, showing off the perfect body proportions of wide shoulders and narrow hips, and his serious expression was a bit ascetic. It's like Aubrey Reed, who called me sister with red eyes. He bowed slightly, stood calm in front of the whole school, and spoke eloquently in a deep voice. Who would have thought that he likes to play auxiliary when he plays games? And every time he is killed by the other party, he will sue aggrievedly, so that I can give him anger. When I was caught stealing kisses, I couldn't say a word about the meeting. The way he lowered his eyes reminded me of the day in the bubble tea shop. When he closed his eyes, his eyelashes trembled, and he kissed me reverently. Just as I was thinking about it, Aubrey Reed's gaze swept over me. Eyes met, and Aubrey Reed, who was talking, suddenly paused. Somehow, it was clear that I was separated by a sea of people, but I felt that the air seemed to be ambiguous because of this distant star. It's damn heartwarming. Tina Kipling. You can also play Honor of Kings. Do you want to play too? Huberty Pater sat down and touched me affectionately on the shoulder. I came back to my senses and looked away. Oh, okay. I lowered my head and turned on the Glory of Kings. Tina Kipling. You choose Yao to assist. I'll take you to lie down. I'll play something with output, so that my teammates don't get too bad, I said, starting to pick a single hero. Hey, don't worry about my jungler skills. Just choose this. Huberty Pater snatched my phone and helped me press confirm. In between movements, Aubrey Reed's voice disappeared for a few seconds, and then continued somewhat absent-mindedly, without looking up. Huberty Pater's rank is indeed a good operation in his rank, and after a commendation meeting, he has won several in a row, but my game experience is not very good. I am commanded by him. I am my pot when I am killed, and his operations show when I win. I was relieved when the meeting ended. After that, Huberty Pater often asked me to play games. I turned it off on the grounds that I wanted to work part-time. I finally went online once that day, and I was caught by him, so I had to play games with him for a long time. I don't even dare to go online now. After this operation, it can be said that it helped me completely quit internet addiction. Huberty Pater probably noticed that I didn't like to play games with him anymore, and started asking me out to dinner frequently. When I turned down Huberty Pater's invitation for the third time in the class, he suddenly sent me a WeChat message. Tina Kipling, are you going a little too far? I sent a question mark in capital letters. As far as I know, your family doesn't have much money. Something to do with you. You know that I applied for the list of bursaries, and you should know about my family background. A woman's body and face will depreciate, but my money will not. It's a shame he didn't say these things to his face in class. Otherwise I would have smashed my phone in his nouveau rich face. Really, if you have the money, why don't you go to the hospital first to get your big pothole face treated? Money can be made, but the stench of scum cannot be covered up by no amount of gold. Fortunately, years of experience in Honor of Kings games have enriched my vocabulary. After a meal, I angrily blocked Huberty Pater. It's really unlucky. The phone vibrated and I pressed it to answer it, and the tone was fierce. Who? The other end of the phone was stunned for a moment, and said cautiously, Sister. The obedient soft voice came, and I was deflated at once. What's wrong, sister? Can you come and pick me up? I'm drinking and can't drive. Aubrey Reed spoke in a somewhat nasal voice, excessively soft, but I still didn't waver, and said indifferently, Then you can take a taxi yourself, or ask your friends for help. I don't have any friends and I don't have any money. Aubrey Reed, you figured it out. We don't have anything to do with each other. You shouldn't call me at this time. No, we're related. I'm still your boss, sister. That was a month ago. It's not a play. That bubble tea shop, it's mine. I lost my temper in an instant. When I was still upright, I added back to Aubrey Reed's WeChat and asked him to send it the location. I also stuffed a wolf spray in my bag, just in case. By the time I arrived, it was already 11 o'clock in the evening. The bar street is still bustling with activity, with huge neon lights flashing and a black Porsche parked on the side of the road. Aubrey Reed was wearing a black sweatshirt, leaning against the body and swaying a little, holding a bottle of mineral water in his bony hands. The night made his whole person whiter, and many coolly dressed beauties frequently looked up at him. I walked up to him, and held out my palm. "Give me the key." Aubrey Reed looked up at me in a daze, then looked down at my hand, pulled something out of his pocket, and placed it in the palm of my hand. A warm touch came, and he had nothing in his hands. Before I could react, he grabbed my hand and gently hugged me into his arms. He buried his head in my shoulder and rubbed it gently, repeating the same sentence over and over again, "Sister, I miss you so much." This time, I was no longer confused by the beauty, and directly pushed him hard. "If you do this again, I will leave." Hearing this, Aubrey Reed reluctantly let go of me, pursed her thin lips, and looked at me as if she had been greatly wronged. I didn't feel distressed at all, and confronted him with a cold face. Soon he was defeated, lowered his head and asked very lonely, "Sister, do you have a boyfriend?" I frowned. "No." "What's wrong?" Aubrey Reed raised his head, his black eyes lit up obviously, and he regained his aggrieved appearance for a moment. "Sister, I have a headache. It's so uncomfortable." I sighed. "Wait here." There was a 24-hour pharmacy just around the corner, and I trotted to buy some aspirin and hangover pills and came back. When I got back from buying my medicine, Aubrey Reed was surrounded by a group of boys. I stood at the back of the car and waited for a while, thinking about waiting for them to finish talking. "Tell us to come over for a drink, and you'll run away after 2 drinks, yourself." In the sound of several people cheering, I accurately captured the sentence. One of the seniors seemed to have drunk a lot, put his arm on Aubrey Reed's shoulder and said, "Don't forget that you still owe me 2 meals." Lao Tzu used a girl's photo as my profile picture, but had a big fight with me, and I only coaxed it today. There is also the rank of king. You can't give me 100 stars. It's not too much. Aubrey Reed naturally took the cigarettes in their hands, and hooked the corners of his mouth. "Okay, I'll wrap all the food for you, this semester." I clenched my uncontrollable fist and took a few steps into the light. The senior who was on Aubrey Reed's shoulder just came to see it, and his eyes opened suddenly, and the drunkenness on his face disappeared in an instant. "Brother, I've left beforehand. Take care of yourself." With that, the senior beckoned a large group of people round him to disappear. Aubrey Reed then turned his head to see me standing with my arms crossed. He quickly threw away the cigarette caught in his fingertips, choked on the smoke in a panic, and coughed lightly. I paced unhurriedly as I approached. "Have you learned to smoke?" "Ahem. If you don't have a sister, I'll help them hold it." "Why did the smoke come out of your mouth? Did you drink too much and your head hurt to smoke?" His face flushed, and he turned his head to look at me. I lifted my chin. "Get in the car." Aubrey Reed didn't dare to say anything, and obediently sat in the co-pilot. When we got downstairs, neither of us had any intention of getting out of the car. Seeing that Aubrey Reed was about to speak several times, I couldn't help but ask, "It was your friend, who lost points with you that night, HMM. You asked him to pretend to be a girl to me, off. I'm not angry with you. I just want to see if my sister likes me a little bit. What about your online dating partner?" Aubrey Reed was silent for a while, his hands unconsciously stirring the corners of his clothes, and whispering, "There are no online dating partners." I looked at Aubrey Reed's obediently lowered eyebrows, and remembered the way he had just held a cigarette between his fingertips, and a ruffian smile on the corner of his mouth. The overlapping of the 2 images gives me a strange sense of disconnection. "Then why don't you explain it to me?" I wanted to explain, but I was too nervous to explain. "I originally wanted to explain to you on Weshit, but my sister blocked me." I raised my eyebrows. I didn't believe it at all, and I was here to pretend to be a little white sheep again. "You don't even feel scared to speak in front of the whole school, and you're so nervous that you can't even explain." Aubrey Reed looked up slightly, as if he had mustered up the courage to look at me, the moonlight shining through the car window into his eyes. "That's because, every time I look at my sister, I feel like I'm still the same cowardly kid I was at the beginning. My heart is beating hard, and my mind is blank." "Sister, do you remember me?" "Remember, Aubrey Reed." Aubrey Reed looked at me fixedly and said seriously, "Sister, I'm sorry." I smiled disappreciatively. "It's okay. You were young and didn't know anything. I moved out of my house in high school. I worked on my own to make money, and I didn't contact my mother at all. I thought I liked my sister very much when I was a child, probably because my sister was the only one who was good to me. However, when I saw my sister for the first time on the first day of school, my heart was about to jump out. Aubrey Reed leaned closer, the bridge of his tall nose almost touching my forehead. What about my sister? Does your heart beat faster when you get close to me? I felt the pounding of my chest, and the answer seemed obvious. Soft lips covered my forehead, and I heard Aubrey Reed's somewhat hoarse voice. Sister, are you okay together? I'm in love. Aubrey Reed began to show up in the open on my way to work. In Glory of Kings, we are bound to a couple's relationship. Aubrey Reed still gave me support. I know he's also very good at playing games, but he just relied on playing auxiliary, and he started acting as soon as he played the jungler. I dragged him to the ground and took him to Glory in 2 months. It just so happened that the school club held the Glory of Kings COS exhibition. I tricked Aubrey Reed into giving him a COS suit, and I lied that there was a problem with the props, and gave him a pair of pink cat ears. Aubrey Reed in this outfit is just crazy to poke my heart. It has a fluffy tail on its back, and short silver white hair with a pair of pink cat ears on top of it, matching a perfect face. I suppressed the saliva at the corner of my mouth. I think I'm going to try playing with Shooter in the future. Aubrey Reed looked at my squint, and couldn't help but stand up and sit on the table behind me with my arms. Then he propped up the table with both hands, and trapped me in his arms. I'm right here. Don't wait for later. I tried to tell him not to be astringent, but his mouth was blocked. It was 10 minutes before Aubrey Reed let go of me with a satisfied face. I looked at the tail in my hand in embarrassment. I don't know how to do it, but I actually pulled his tail off. Aubrey Reed curled the corners of her mouth. If my sister wants to wear it, it's not impossible. No, no, the show has started. Let's go. I jumped off the table with a red face, and dragged Aubrey Reed to the show. Sure enough, Aubrey Reed was dragged by the math sister to take a crazy photo. His resentful eyes looked at me from time to time, but unfortunately I didn't see it, and I was busy taking pictures with my beautiful sister. It wasn't until the show was over that I remembered to take a picture with Aubrey Reed. Aubrey Reed looked aggrieved, but still obediently cooperated. After I finished taking pictures, he asked, Sister, do you want to go to the Honor of Kings Pro League? I wanted to go, but I didn't get a ticket. I grabbed it. Aubrey Reed smugly waved his phone at me, and when I was about to rush over to look at it, he turned his back behind him. My sister won't see a handsome and powerful esports player, so she doesn't want me, right? I looked at him speechlessly. How is that possible? Unless, of course, that person is K. K is a king streamer, with millions of followers in just 1 year, and has participated in several leagues. After my tutor resigned, I didn't give up playing games, but my skills are so bad, I was not reconciled. So I searched for tutorials on the internet, and learned to fight the jungle. That's when K came in. He wears a pullover sweatshirt every day, his face hidden in the dark light, leaving only slender fingers tapping on the screen. A deep voice, a face with imagination, superb technology, and his slightly indifferent personality. It just makes my adolescent girl think about it. Aubrey Reed raised an eyebrow. Sister likes K. That's right. I learned from watching him live broadcast. When I beat the king, I heard he's coming for this game too. How is it possible? K has already withdrawn. Really? I got the scoop. I didn't take what Aubrey Reed said seriously. Unexpectedly, the next day, the official released a huge poster, announcing that K would also participate in this league and show his face. The official is very good at hype, and in less than a day, everyone is already talking about this K, who suddenly disappeared and returned gorgeously. I looked at Aubrey Reed suspiciously, feeling that something was wrong. On the day of the tournament, Aubrey Reed was going to the bathroom, and I was in the first place. The seats were in the front row. The events are all underway, and Aubrey Reed hasn't returned yet. I sent him a WeChat message and asked, what about people? Right now. The thing fell into the car, but I waited left and right, and he never appeared. The last one I want to introduce is the much anticipated esports streamer, who made his debut appearance. K. As the host introduced, Aubrey Reed walked slowly onto the stage, locked my place in a matter of seconds, and smiled brightly at me. Behind him, the screams of the female fans almost shattered their eardrums. The host smiled and asked him, after disappearing for 2 years, what made you want to return to the stage? Aubrey Reed's eyes never took his eyes off me, and he smiled, because my girlfriend wants to see me play. As soon as the words fell, another scream erupted from the audience. I blushed and looked away. In the finals, the initial stage was not smooth, and the opposite side had a great economic advantage. Most of them are late-game heroes, and Aubrey Reed is the only one who has developed so far. The other side didn't want to give any chance to develop, just wanted a quick solution, and fought fiercely. In desperation, the top order chose to steal the tower with the line, but here 4-5, can't beat at all, and soon hit the crystal. Shanyan saw that the crystal couldn't hold it, and he was ready to go back to the city to defend. Aubrey Reed's familiar low voice rang out, "Don't go back, go on." In the end, Aubrey Reed was left alone to defend, and he deceived the opposite side of the ultimate move, with one skill to return to the city to make up for the state. And on the other side, Shangdin has already prepared some crystals, but the line has not yet entered the tower, and the opposite side has begun to return to the city. Aubrey Reed interrupts the return to the city with a movement skill, and begins to harvest heads with impunity. 5 Peerless. With the voice broadcast, the picture is pushed to the other party's exploding crystal, and wins. I jumped up and cheered excitedly. Aubrey Reed took off her headphones and walked in my direction. I ran over and threw myself into his arms. It turns out that every time my heart moves, it's you. Extra. Aubrey Reed is back as a streamer. It's just that it's with me, live broadcasting his daily life of assisting me. It just so happens that my face is not unfamiliar to everyone, and I have gained a large number of fans. By taking this opportunity, I seized the opportunity and opened a self-media company, and made a lot of money, enough to change a nice house for our family, and put my mother on the back burner. The games developed by Aubrey Reed are becoming more and more widely known, and the company is getting bigger and bigger. I took Aubrey Reed home. My mom couldn't get enough of Aubrey Reed, putting vegetables in his bowl and giving me a positive look from time to time. Even my dad, who had been depressed for many years, had a red glow on his face, pulled Aubrey Reed to ask questions, and threatened to take 2 sips together. That's when Aubrey Reed's mother called. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a long time, so long that I thought it was a harassing call, and when I was about to hang up, she spoke. Aubrey Reed, is he okay? Even after many years, I still remember her voice. I glanced at Aubrey Reed, who was already drinking with my dad, and said, he's fine. There was another long silence. Tina Kipling, Auntie was sorry for you back then, and Auntie apologized to you. Can you help Auntie? I'm Aubrey Reed's a child. There was a sobbing voice on the other end of the line. It turned out that Aubrey Reed hadn't seen her since high school, but according to his ability, he sent a sum of money to the family every year. The amount of money is increasing, and the distance between them is getting farther and farther away. On the day of the wedding, I took the opportunity to get Aubrey Reed to meet his mother. The two didn't know what to say. When Aubrey Reed came back, he hugged me and didn't let go, and his hairy head rubbed around in my shoulder socket, and suddenly said, "Sister, I'm sure I'm not going to cheat like my dad." I was confused. Should I worry about this? Aubrey Reed chuckled. Of course not. I just want you to know that I will definitely be a qualified husband and dad. Husband can. Dad is too early. It's not too early. We can start working on it today. Aubrey Reed picked me up and walked to the bedroom. Extra, Aubrey Reed. In the beginning, she was my tutor. Her little face was white and clean, and her ponytail was flicking behind her. She would comfort me softly. She would play games with me. She didn't think I was an outlier for being quiet. She wouldn't dislike me as a waste like my mother. That was the first time I felt that one person could be so beautiful. She also plays games with me. However, every time I feel drowsy, I guess she doesn't like games that don't have a sense of engagement. So after that, I only played support and willingly followed her. She introduced me to game development and programming, and that was the first time I felt that I had strengths and hope. When she came home, I stood at the door and watched her. My neighbor brother, who was always teasing me, looked at my stupid look at her back, sneered and asked, "Like her?" then you go and kiss her. And if you kiss her, she will marry you. Young and ignorant, I believed. I didn't think it would lead to such serious consequences. I stopped running away and started going to school, living in the school. Try to meet the gaze of others and be a normal person. I skipped one grade after another, and when I was in high school, I started streaming games. Enough money was saved. When I was in college, I bought a car and an apartment near the school. I never thought I'd ever see Tina Kipling again. I almost subconsciously stopped her. My eyes were sour with the emotion of being lost and regained, and I blurted out, "Sister, I miss you so much." But in the face of her puzzled eyes, I didn't know what to say. She was so wrong back then. She probably hated me very much, but I didn't want to miss her again. So my mouth is faster than my brain, and I make up a story that doesn't exist. I want to rely on her in a grand way. Unexpectedly, she was actually angry because of my double row record. I did it on purpose, but I didn't expect her to leave so decisively. In fact, in the past few years, I have been smoking and drinking. I also have a lot of friends, and the eloquence and field control ability that I have exercised from my entrepreneurial experience are not a problem. It stands to reason that explanation should be the easiest thing to do. But once I looked into my sister's eyes, I felt as if nothing had changed, and I was still the same clumsy tongue, who didn't know how to express myself, and could only follow her sister one by one. During the speech that day, seeing the intimate appearance of the boy next to her, I had the urge to rush off the stage and beat him. When I went back, I looked at her record, and it was all double rows. I panicked, so I could only drink some wine to strengthen my courage, and look for her. I wasn't drunk at all, but I know that she eats soft and not hard. I thought she wouldn't come back so soon, but I didn't expect to be caught. I simply didn't pretend. I guess my sister remembered me too. She is still willing to come and pick me up today. That is, she doesn't hate me, perhaps, like me too. It's really sweet to fall in love with my sister. It's even sweeter when she knows that her favorite esports player is my vest. It turned out to be the same as me. Every time she moves, it's for me. The end.